And it is Health Monday with Jared and Jacob here on Daybreak Live. Gentlemen, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good to have you with us. And I hadn't thought about this topic in a long time. Measles.
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 Unfortunately, we're back talking about it.
Wow. Here we
are
After
again.
decades.
Where did that come from?
Well, that's a great question. Where did it come from? Measles is back, right? We're going to talk about this today. There have been cases in measles in the United States, actually more this year than have been reported since the year 2000. We thought we were done with measles. In fact, the CDC declared it to be eradicated or eliminated in the year 2000. And now there's, I can't remember the current number, 700, I can't remember, 700 to 800 cases in the United States. But as it starts to get closer to home, there's now cases in Georgia, Tennessee, and Florida. So it's only a matter of time before measles are back in Alabama.
So if it was eradicated, how did you get back here?
Good question. It was considered eradicated because we vaccinated against it, and no one had it. But then we stopped vaccinating for it in certain cases, and international travel, people from other countries come in, bring it back, and if you're unprotected, here we go again. There are certain people that we'll get to later that can't get vaccinated or are too young, and so we bring it into a population, and once it gets a hold, it's a virus, and so here we go.
So I saw this story a couple of weeks ago of this person who was traveling through Alabama, and apparently he was carrying the measles virus.
Yes.
And he made several stops in Alabama, and it made big news.
Oh yeah, well I think I can't remember, the guy was from Tennessee, maybe, I think he was.
I can't.
Traveling to Alabama, one of the fast food restaurants up in the Fort Payne area. There's a little panic going around, and rightfully so. Measles can be a serious problem. We'll talk more about what it is in just a minute, but I want to second something that Jacob said. The main reason that measles is back is because of people choosing not to get their kids vaccinated. We're going to talk a whole lot more about that before the segment is over, but that is the main reason. And then persons travel over to foreign countries, overseas, where the measles still exist, and bring it back, and all of a sudden you got populations who are not immunized, bam, got measles outbreaks.
You picture measles, these little dots on people, but it's a virus, but go into detail exactly what measles is.
All right, so measles. Here's the signs of measles. Actually, the primary thing is we always think about the classic rash, measles rash, but we start normally really high fever. And then you get a classic trio of runny, watery, itchy eyes, itchy eyes, runny nose, and a dry cough. Those three almost come with it. So you get the fever, you get those three things, and then most of the time you start with white spots in your mouth, and then spread the face, the red spots. Everybody thinks of measles, the red spots everybody sees.
Are the spots in your mouth, are they sore, or are they just...
Oh, yeah, they feel great.
Okay.
Oh, they feel great. It's a pleasure. Yeah, and then that rash, you get red spots on your face, spreads on down, and I've never seen a person with measles. 39 years old.
Lots of
Don't tell
pictures?
anybody. Yeah, lots of pictures because we didn't have it. But now, yeah, so a lot of people, you talk to people born, before 1957, they've had it, they've seen it, it's awful, but I've never personally looked at it. But yeah, classic red spots cover most of the torso, starting on the face, usually moving down, covering the torso.
When you think of, you get a high fever, or you get a cough, I'm not relating it to measles though.
That's a very
That's a
good
big
point
deal.
right there. The first symptoms of measles sound just like all kinds of other infectious diseases, right? Like Jacob said, the high fever, the cough, the runny nose, the red watery eyes. Sounds like everything else we talk about on this show, doesn't it? But what differentiates is what he said, spots in the mouth. And then if you've never seen measles and you're watching this segment, just Google it very quickly, go to the images, and you'll see. There's a classic measles rash that literally occurs all over the body.
Complications from the measles.
Unfortunately, it doesn't stop with the symptoms we just named. If that was it, it would be really miserable for a week or so, and then we'd just move forward from it. Unfortunately, the things we get most often with measles infection are ear infections. Very common, doesn't sound terrible. We can treat most of them these days, but can often lead to permanent hearing damage, especially in young children. More importantly, however, the next two, pneumonia, which is the leading cause of death with people that have measles, when people die from measles, which we'll get to that in a minute. Pneumonia is a big deal. That's what gets most of the children that die from measles. And then, ready for the word of the day, here we go, encephalitis. Big fancy word means brain swelling. And obviously we can hear that and go, that's not good. Brain swelling can lead to all sorts of long-term brain problems and cognitive thinking issues as a child grows, if a child gets the brain swelling that comes with the measles.
So, Jared, are we more susceptible as children or older adults, or who does the measles affect most?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, the more susceptible people are the youngest kids who haven't yet been vaccinated, right? Our CDC recommends 2 doses of the measles vaccine for every kid. And the first dose is somewhere around 12 to 15 months. The second dose is somewhere around 4 to 6 years. And so when you think about somebody who's less than 12 to 15 months old, who's yet to have even 1 dose of the measles vaccine, those are your most vulnerable kids right there. And then before age 4 to 6, they've only had 1 dose. They don't have full protection. So if you just want to use the number of less than 4 years old, there's your most vulnerable there. Our oldest population, right? I think Jacob mentioned this already. If you were born before 1957, when measles was so rampant in the United States, you're considered to be immune, because measles was so rampant that you were exposed, right? If you didn't, you may remember having it, but if you didn't have it, you were exposed. So those people are protected. You know, a lot of times we come on this show, we talk about, if you're over age 65, this applies to you. Honestly, if you're over age 65 right here, would that be 1957?
Close
Is
enough.
my math bad there?
Yeah, but I'm too tired to do it right now.
So,
Don't look at me. Come on.
62?
Okay, very good, very
62?
good. But honestly, this doesn't.
Took 2 pharmacists to come up with that.
Look, it's early. It's early. It's the best I got.
We don't have any calculators on the set. But this actually doesn't apply. We're talking about young kids who are not vaccinated, and then the other people who are at high risk, and we'll talk about this some more when we get to the vaccine, are people who are healthcare workers, people who travel internationally, college students, believe it or not, and people who work in daycare type settings.
Well, all the medical advances that we've had in medicine down through the years, why are we even talking about this in 2019? A lot of people, like me, kind of got that confused with this vaccination you have on your arm, but that's from something else.
That's true. That's the one you were talking about. It's a different one. The polio leaves the spot, and that's fortunately eradicated. Why are we talking about this? And we've said this already this morning, and it's a touchy subject, and so you have to be careful what you say, but I want to get some facts out. People have gotten bad information about vaccines and complications that don't exist from vaccines, that were not caused by vaccines. And so there is a segment of our population that chooses voluntarily not to vaccinate their children. And because of that, we have more diseases
Is it
that we've
religious?
gotten rid of. It is not. If it were religious at all, I probably wouldn't say a word about it. It's not.
Okay.
It's fears that, I'll just say, it's fears that vaccines lead to autism.
Okay.
And that has been very closely looked at because of all the beliefs about that, very closely studied, very closely looked at. We can tell you definitively vaccines do not lead to an increase in autism. But that is a very prominent misconception. It's out there. It's a very common misconception. So because of that, people don't often get their children vaccinated anymore. And measles is what we're going to call the tip of the iceberg, because when you stop getting vaccinations, measles happens to be the news of today. Next week it'll be another, and next year it'll be another. And these diseases that used to kill people rampantly, that we proudly have advanced to the point that we don't die from anymore, they're all going to come back. And that's just unfortunate, and I'm sure I'm offending someone. I'm not doing it on purpose. I'm trying to help, but that's where we are.
Fortunately, I think I'm right on this. We haven't had any cases of measles reported here in Alabama. Is that correct?
We haven't, not yet. There was all over the news last week. We thought the very first case in Alabama was a 5-month-old, I think, in Pell City. The CDC came back just over the weekend or the last 3 or 4 days and said that, in fact, that case was actually not measles. It was something else. So, yeah, right now we're at 0 confirmed cases in Alabama. That's important, confirmed, because we're talking about CDC confirmed cases here. There very well may be measles in Alabama, and as we already mentioned, because they're in Tennessee, Georgia, and Florida, they're going to be here sooner or later. Let me piggyback on something Jacob said right quick. People our age, I'm 41, what are you, 30?
39.
39. People our age don't know anything about measles because we've never seen them. We also don't know anything about a whole lot of other infectious diseases, people our age. If we had lived in the early 1900s, we wouldn't have this anti-vaccine stance because people would have polio and measles and mumps and this and this and this and this and this before we had vaccines to eliminate these things. If we're talking about measles specifically, I made sure to write these down. These are CDC numbers right here. In the early 1900s, there were 3 to 4 million cases of measles every year in the U.S., 48,000 hospitalizations, 400 to 500 deaths in the United States alone. We're talking about thousands and thousands of deaths worldwide. But because of the introduction of the measles vaccine in 1968, the measles was declared totally eradicated from the U.S. in 2000. That is a major scientific advancement that the medical community made. But because we grew up in a lifetime where there was no such thing as measles, we do not have the perspective that people who lived long ago did. And without that historical perspective, our generation has made some very bad decisions.
Jacob, I'm assuming what we talked about this morning, the way to protect yourself is the vaccine. And, people my age, a little bit older than you guys, how do we know if we've had the vaccine or not?
Good. Some general rules of thumb. I'm not going to rat you out on age or year, old person. But if you were born before 1957, you don't have anything to worry about. You were so exposed that you have a natural immunity to it and you're done. You don't have to worry about it. If you were born between 1957 and 1989, there is a consideration you need to think about there. Again, if you almost assuredly, at least from 68 to 89, almost assuredly had at least one of the two vaccines, the two series, and you have some built-up immunity. However, Jared mentioned this, if you're a healthcare worker, an international traveler, college student, which you've probably had to have it if you're a college student, daycare worker, you want to consider it at the very least. There are blood tests your doctor can do to tell you if you have immunity or not. If you were born after 1989, you would have gotten two vaccines. Assuming your parents got you vaccinated, you're good to go. So most people born after 1957 can at least consider, have I had a vaccine? Do I need a second vaccine? You can get a blood test at your doctor if you just really want to know if you're immune or not. If you work in any of those fields we talked about, you may just want to go ahead and get another vaccine. So there's a lot of considerations that go into it, and there's, do I need it? Do I not? But if you're born after 1957 and are healthcare, daycare, college, international traveler, if you can't prove that you've got a blood test and you've got some immunity, I'd highly consider getting a shot.
Measles topic this morning with our friends from Marble City Pharmacy, and it is Health Monday, the 13th day of May of 2019. And you talked about smaller children, and you talked about other age. Is there a group of people or individuals who can't or shouldn't take the vaccine?
Oh yeah, good question. The measles vaccine, by the way, just for clarity purposes, it's not just the measles, it's the measles, mumps, and rubella vaccine. Mumps and rubella are other examples of infectious diseases that we don't talk about because we don't have them in the United States. As Jacob said, quite frankly, we'll probably see them eventually if this trend continues. There are people that can't take the measles, mumps, rubella, commonly called the MMR vaccine, because it is a live vaccine, right? That means that instead of having strains of the virus in the vaccine that have been killed, there are actually live strains of the virus. Now they're weakened, right? So this is not the full-blown MMR virus that you're being exposed to. But yes, because it's a live vaccine, we don't give it to pregnant women and we don't give it to people whose immune systems are already compromised. And I'm thinking of people with certain types of diseases that their immune system is weak, but also people on certain types of medications. For example, if a patient is on chemotherapy, if a patient is on very, very high dose steroid type medications that suppress their immune system. Those people can't get the virus can't get the vaccine, because their bodies cannot handle it, right? They may actually get the full-blown virus from it, rather than the benefits of the vaccine.
I guess measles, the look of it and the feel of it, early on, I guess you can look at it and say, well, I've got a rash or something. But the measles, once it starts, I don't guess it's going to go away for a little time, right?
No, you'll keep it for a week to 2 weeks. You're contagious pretty much that entire time. And it's a virus. It spreads very easily. Sneeze, cough, gets airborne. It's very easy to spread. It's not one of these that's real hard to catch. It's real easy to spread and catch, and you're going to be contagious for a week or two and be sick for a week or two.
Well, normally on a Monday morning, we don't talk about measles, but if you've got questions on this or any other medical or topic like that, then talk to these guys at Marble City Pharmacy. And if you don't want to talk publicly about it, they can talk to you in private, and all conversation is kept close to the vest. And you guys deal with a lot of people every day with a lot of different issues, but you always try to keep a smile on your face, and that person that's talking to you, it's important to them, so it's important to y'all.
Yeah, it's important to them, so it's important to us. I think we said before on this show, we can't possibly disclose to you the type of questions that we get at times. And a lot of times,
give us a hint?
Yeah, well, to be honest with you, a lot of times we will go over to the private consultation area. Somebody will ask us a question that they are extremely embarrassed about. They maybe got their head down, their face is red, and I just tell them, listen, I've had 62 more embarrassing questions than that today. So don't feel bad about that. And sometimes we will answer questions and talk about certain body parts with a level of comfort that's strange to people. So, I'm sorry, but we talk about this all day, every day. It really is okay. I do want to make sure that I say this. We do have the vaccine in stock.
Okay.
We didn't a couple of weeks ago, but as this news has gotten out, more people are aware. We've gotten a lot of phone calls. We do have the vaccine in stock and ready to go. I want to make sure I said that.
All right. And I probably said this or asked this question. I'd be remiss if I didn't ask it. Once you take the vaccine, couple of weeks you're dealing with that, but are there side effects or anything from the vaccine, or is it just something you have to deal with to get through the measles, or what?
I understand. And honestly, what I would say is I call it standard vaccine, side effects.
Yeah.
Got a shot in my arm. My arm's a little sore for a couple of days. Feel a little tired for a couple of days. Just not quite up to par. And then we're done.
All right.
Yeah. So a couple of days of I don't feel great. Other than that, we're done.
All right, fantastic. And speaking of getting it done, we're almost done with this segment, but it is graduation. And what a beautiful gift selection, not just for graduates, but for every season. You got spring and summer here now, and people going on vacation, and you got everything on the shelf for anything that they might need, right?
Man, we do. We did a lot of business this weekend for Mother's Day gifts, and we got stuff for grads, you name it. Father's Day is coming up. Great place to look for gifts for sure.
Yeah, don't forget Dad. Whatever you do, don't forget Dad. Thank you guys for being with us this morning.
Thanks a lot.
All right, we got more coming up on Daybreak right after this.